Sean O'Malley is a legitimate UFC star. He's spectacular in the cage, sharp on the mic, and he's a reliable draw. He sells fights, moves numbers, and brings eyeballs to the sport. And in a promotion built on stars, he's undeniably one of them. As a result, he's among the UFC's top earners, and rightly so. And this is why he was so perplexed, maybe even bummed, when Zuffa, the UFC's parent company, unveiled a new signing for its boxing venture. More top talent has signed with Zuffa Boxing, read the tweet. Welcome to the fam, Conor Nigel. That's Conor Benn, British boxing royalty, and not a surprising pickup for a promotion trying to quickly make a name for itself. The surprising part wasn't the signing itself, though. It was the price tag. $15 million for a single fight. In boxing, that's pretty big money. But in the UFC, it may as well be science fiction. Obviously, the deal tore through MMA locker rooms, group chats, and podcasts, and UFC fighters around the globe all did the same thing. They tried to square the math with their own paydays, and for Sean O'Malley and the majority of fighters, it just didn't add up. For me, it's so hard to believe, O'Malley said on his YouTube channel. I can't imagine it being true. Zuffa Boxing is like, they're paying it out? I don't even know who Conor Benn is. He's supposed to be a pretty big name in boxing, but I've never heard of him. So what is going on? On paper, O'Malley ticked every box. Titles, personality, pay-per-view numbers. Like every UFC fighter, he bought into the promotion's promise. Deliver value for money and get paid handsomely. At the time of Benn's signing, O'Malley had 8 years in the UFC. 14 fights, 4 title bouts, 9 post-fight bonuses, and a bantamweight crown for a total reported earnings of $8 to $10 million. By comparison, Conor Benn had 25 fights, 1 loss, a record of 1-1 from his last 2 fights, 1 PED scandal, and 0 world titles. But he was worth money for another reason. He had a name. His father, Nigel Benn, is a boxing Hall of Famer and British icon. And that's it. The gap isn't resume-based. It's about something far more insidious, and UFC fighters should be furious. While Zuffa owns both promotions, the UFC isn't boxing. It runs more like a league. Fighters sign contracts, and the promotion controls opponents, timing, sponsors, broadcast deals. The works. Because the UFC controls everything, fighters collectively take home just 18% of the total revenue. And none of that includes fighters having to pay for coaches or managers. As for the rest, Zuffa allocates a massive 40% of the revenue straight to corporate profit and splits the rest between production, marketing, and the shareholders. Basically, the fighters think they're winning, but Zuffa is taking them apart. Boxing plays an entirely different game. Fighters operate like independent contractors, aligning with promoters while negotiating terms fight by fight in an open market. Due to this, networks and promoters compete for a piece of the action, and bids skyrocket. As a result, leverage shifts to the athletes, and top boxers can command 50 to a ginormous 80% of an event's revenue because they are the product. This is why Zuffa can't port the UFC model into boxing. No boxer would be stupid enough to sign that deal. Another thing that needs to be mentioned is positioning. Zuffa Boxing is the new entrant in a well-established market. They can't break into the mix by undercutting fighters, but they could do it by overpaying them.
For these two? No. Beat it.
With all that in mind, the Benn contract makes sense. He's a UK draw, he has a famous surname, and his exciting multi-generational rivalry with Chris Eubank Jr. was a smash hit. They didn't buy Benn for his record, they bought a sellable asset. And just quietly, Zuffa isn't the only one with their name on the check. Turki Alalshikh has been bankrolling big swings as part of Saudi Arabia's sports expansion and domination, which feels illegal, like it should be illegal, but it's clearly not. By contrast, UFC pay isn't set in an open market. There are no real bidding wars and no rival networks doubling offers overnight. So the glass ceiling is, well, it's still the ceiling. The PFL tried dangling a $1 million season prize to lure stars away from the UFC, but that still didn't stack up against Zuffa's championship pay scales. So the PFL model quietly faded. One championship likes to splash cash around on select regional stars, but not enough to poach UFC champions. Their biggest get was Demetrius Johnson. But Dana White was famously underpaying DJ, who he didn't want anyway. The fact is that the leverage sits with the UFC and not the athletes. Even elite names in the promotion operate within capped pay scales beneath that financially supported ceiling. But Benn's deal cracked that ceiling, because now UFC fighters have a direct comparison. It's the same parent company with wildly different outcomes, and UFC fighters like Sean are not happy. If they're really paying him $15 million, yeah, it's crazy how much work you put in the UFC to build this name, create this character, be this star. And I'm not making $15 million a fight. But O'Malley isn't just talking about money. He's done what the UFC asks, built a brand, took the fights, made the company a ton of cash. Then he sees a parallel system where his bosses pay someone else years of his pay for one night out. How could this not feel like betrayal? And on top of that, many UFC champions are bigger names than their boxing counterparts, and they're still earning a fraction of the pay for a sport that takes more than just fists to compete with. As the man behind both Zuffa boxing and the UFC, criticism was bound to be fired on Dana White. And he's not naive. He knew this wasn't going to go well, but they did it anyway because money talks. You can all but guarantee that there will be more big-name signings with Zuffa boxing that come with bigger guarantees and even louder reactions. So the real question is, what will UFC fighters do when they see Uncle Dana paying outsiders more for less, when it was their sacrifices that made Zuffa what it is today? Because from their side, the math isn't just off, it's insulting. Viva la revolution!
Thanks for watching, and remember, if you want more fight sports in your life, just hit the subscribe button.